Happy Thanksgiving to all of you out there. I hope you have a wonderful day with your family and friends. Eat a little too much, that's okay. Watch a little bad football, most likely. Make a little money, well, that's obviously the stated goal. Hi, everyone. Al DeMarco here, general manager of DeMarcosports.com. Like I had to tell you that. And this is going to be your Thursday video report. Listen, I'm going to break down a couple of games for you in the NFL where I'm on a 27 and 13 roll with my complimentary plays over the past 8 weeks. Yeah, 27 and 13 and a push along the way. I'm going to take a look at the Cowboys Commanders matchup. And then in college football, the best bet, actually, I think, here on today's video report is actually going to be the Egg Bowl clash between Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Now, my best bet today, where I'm going for my 15-time NFL best bet winner, number 20 out of 30, is actually going to be a two-team teaser. It's my two-team teaser of the month. I won it in October, didn't have one in September, and I've got it going today. I'm taking the early game between geez, I almost forgot who's playing the early game. How bad is that, right? It's only going to be playing. I'm doing this video report at 6:45 in the morning. It kicks off in what, less than 6 hours from now. But yes, the early game between the Packers and the Lions and hooking it up with the late game between the Seahawks and San Francisco. FYI, if you'd like it, it's discounted to $22 over at DeMarcosports.com using the coupon code only 22. Yes, only 22. Normal price is $88, and that's available today. My teaser of the month winner and 15-time best bet winner in the NFL, number, what is it again? 20 out of 30. Listen, I've worked all night and I'm tired. Hey, before I get to your football complimentary plays, quick word about college basketball betting and just a word of advice for you. And it comes into play for the rest of this month and most of December too, because you've still got so much non-conference action. First, it goes without saying that if you're playing through an online sports book, that you should have at least two, because you should always be comparing prices. That goes without saying. But because you've got so many of these tournaments that are replaying in so many obscure places from Alaska to the Bahamas to Cancun, etc. Often you will find some sports books that will have lines immediately when the pairings are announced. Others will come along much later in the day, sometimes 10, 11 Eastern time, maybe noon. It's advantageous to have multiple sources because you will often run into situations which I encountered on Wednesday, yesterday, when I was going for my 15-time best bet basketball winner, number 7 in a row. There was a tournament being played in suburban Las Vegas in Henderson, Nevada. I think it was called I was making fun of it, the Ball Dogs tournament or something like that. Anyway, it was Indiana State in the second game in consecutive days in that tournament. And the Sycamores, the Fighting Trees, the Sycamores were playing Pepperdine. Now, the night before, I had used Indiana State as well, and they won convincingly over Rice. When I saw that price at a couple of sports books with Indiana State, and I was working, it was like, it was like 7:30 in the morning Eastern time. And I was working and I saw at most sports books, Indiana State was only a 4 to 4.5 point favorite. I immediately released the Sycamores because I thought it was an absolute joke of a price. And I put it out there so my customers could get it and anybody else that wanted to buy could get it as well. But I anticipated that line going up tremendously when everybody else in the world, meaning other sports books, eventually came online and looked at that game. And when the betting public looked at that game too and realized that Pepperdine sucked, what happened? That line jumped from 4.5, all the way up to 7 by 11:30 Eastern time. In a span of 4 hours, that's the type of line movement you had. There was no injuries. It was just the public realizing what a bad number that was. But if you had multiple sports books, you didn't have to wait. And the reason I'm saying this is because, and I don't mention the sports books' names because, listen, I don't get commissions, I don't get paid for it, and they don't need the publicity. One big sports book out there had the line at 4. The other big sports book that everybody's familiar with because you see their incessant ads on TV, they didn't have a posted price. until it came on much later in the morning. Therefore, if you got in at 4, you didn't have to sweat when Indiana State only won that game by 8. If you got in at 7, you still won. You see this happen frequently, especially in these non-conference tournaments that are played at neutral sites when you have multiple games and multiple nights. You got to be able to take advantage of it, and that's why you need multiple sources. This isn't like the old days when we used to call Danny the bookmaker, and he would open at 6:15 for 6:30 and 7 o'clock Eastern time tip-offs. And if the games were playing in the daytime, forget it. Danny the bookmaker wasn't around. Times have changed. You got to be progressive, and you got to have multiple sources. Okay, with that being said, let's get to your complimentary plays. Let's look at the, believe it or not, the Egg Bowl first. Listen, this has been a game where the road team has won the last 2 years. You may recall last year, Ole Miss at home in Oxford lost that game 24-22, and unbeknownst to all of us, that happened to be the last game of Mike Leach's coaching career because he tragically passed away of a heart attack shortly thereafter. And Mississippi State subsequently promoted defensive coordinator Will Arnett to succeed Leach. Arnett's biggest mistake was trashing most of Leach's air raid principles and deciding to go to a more pro-style attack, emphasizing the ground game. Yeah, stupid. Well, you know what happened last, 2 Mondays ago after they lost their, I think it was their fourth straight game or third straight game. They got destroyed at Texas A&M 51-10. Arnett was shown the door. And they promoted Greg Knox, I think it is. His name's inconsequential, really, to be honest with you. Their offensive analyst to the interim coaching job. And they managed to get by Southern Mississippi this past Saturday at home and snap their 3-game losing streak, beating a bad Golden Eagles team 41-20. What I like here about Ole Miss, the big number is Lane Kiffin's team's 9-2. They got destroyed, as you know, a couple of weeks ago at Georgia, 52-17. They didn't play great against the cupcake Louisiana Monroe last week at home, but they won well enough, 35-3. And I think this is a great spot to go ahead and back them because it's not like the interim coach from Mississippi State suddenly came in a week and a half and said, hey, we're going to revert to the old style that we played. This is a bad Mississippi State team. And it's a Mississippi State team that's 1-6 ATS as a dog this year. I don't anticipate any changes. And you've got Lane Kiffin looking for a second 10-win season with the Rebels playing in revenge. And I think that's a great spot for them. Now, I will point out a couple of deficiencies for both teams. Although Jackson Dart has been playing well here at quarterback, on and off, but especially lately for Mississippi, he's somewhat inconsistent. But listen, the guy's had a good statistical year, 66% completions, over 2,800 yards, 19 touchdowns. He has been sacked 25 times. The good news, he's very mobile as well, 7 more touchdowns and over 350 yards rushing. What I don't like about Mississippi's attack is they have not been able to run the ball consistently. And maybe that has something to do with the offensive line, which also has allowed their quarterback to be sacked 25 times. Quinshon Judkins, who was so dynamic last year as a freshman, when he ran for almost 1,600 yards, only 933 yards this year. Last year, he averaged 5.7 yards a carry. This year, only 4.5. So that's a problem. But for Mississippi State, they have bigger problems. Will Rogers, their starting quarterback, look at these numbers, listen to these numbers that he compiled in the air raid attack. 2 years ago, he put the ball up 688 times, threw for 4,700 plus yards, 36 touchdowns. Last year, he put up the ball 610 times and threw for nearly 4,000 yards and 35 touchdowns. This year, he just returned from a 4-game absence because of some shoulder injury issues. Last week against Southern Miss, 12 for 27, 144 yards, 2 touchdowns. On the season, he's only completing 59% of his passes. He's only thrown 198 times. And, this offense is not tailored to what he does best. And since Mississippi State doesn't run the ball effectively, you got a problem. So I like Ole Miss here laying the 10, 10 and a half. And again, if this line is 10 and a half, this is one of those rare occasions where I'm buying down the half point and I'm taking Ole Miss. Now let's get to the Dallas game. Cowboys are minus 13. I told you last week, I didn't care what the price was. I had no qualms with laying the number at Carolina, and it wasn't a stellar offensive performance by the Cowboys, but they got the job done. Out first down the Panthers 23-13, outgained them 311 to 187. I told you 2 weeks ago on a Sunday, I had no qualms with laying the points against the Giants, and I didn't care what the point spread was, and you know what happened there. They rolled 49-17 2 Sundays ago, 640 total yards. Giants only 172, 32-16 advantage in first downs. And why is that game important? Because who did the Giants beat last week in Washington? Yeah, these same Commanders. Now, statistically, did the Commanders play the better game? Sure, on the box score they won, but they played the game on the field. I mean, on the box score, Washington 28-13 first down advantage, 404 yards versus 292. But 6 turnovers, including 3 interceptions by Sam Howell, made Tommy DeVito, which, by the way, every time I say Tommy DeVito, I think, is this guy playing guitar for some band? I don't know. But anyway, Tommy DeVito, I mean, made him a winner. It made the Giants a winner, for God's sake. So, I look at this team and I say, could they possibly have a letdown? Yeah, they could. Could this be another debacle like Arizona? It possibly could. But the Cowboys didn't collapse and have that letdown against the Giants 2 Sundays ago. They didn't have that letdown last Sunday at Carolina. And the fact is, they're on an 11-4 ATS roll versus division opponents at home. They have covered 14 of their last 19 as a home favorite. And do you suddenly think like Washington is going to play well in this game? I just don't see it. So I would go ahead and lay the 13 points. Now, let's give you the little asterisk. The one thing that you have to be somewhat concerned about. Why the NFL schedule makers did this, I don't know. But this is game 2 of a 3-game stretch for the Cowboys in an 11-day span. So do they get up big in the second half and then maybe start resting some of their starters? Do we see Cooper Rush here relieve Dak? I don't know. I mean, nobody on the coaching staff has called me. Mike McCarthy didn't say, hey, Al, do you want to come over for a pre-Thanksgiving dinner last night and I'll give you my coaching plans? Didn't happen. I still think Dallas rolls handily in this one. But again, that is the one reason, by the way, that I do believe Ole Miss is the better of the 2 plays. Could you put them in a teaser? Yeah, you damn well could. And I think that would work too. So anyway, those are your Thanksgiving Day selections. Again, I wish you well. By the way, do not, if betting football games today is going to ruin your day, there's 364 other days you can bet. Don't bet today. That's my advice. Stop. You watch the video at this point. God knows why. Don't bet. Don't watch the damn games. Most of them are going to suck anyway. And just don't bet today and enjoy the day with your family and friends. Again, don't let football ruin your day. Just my own personal 2 cents. Good luck, everybody. I will be back here tomorrow and God, the next day and the next day too. A lot of football coming up. Talk to you later. Good luck, everybody.